GeForce Now has had its biggest update yet at Gamescom. We're talking 5080s in the cloud, DLSS 4, 5K at 120, upgrades for Steam Deck and LG TVs, and finally, one for me, we have now got racing wheel support as well. I think you would agree this is all huge news, but let's be honest, the real story here isn't the hardware, it's install to play, and that's where I'm going to focus this video on. Install to play is the big new feature. It lets you install games directly onto Nvidia's cloud storage, just like you would on a normal PC. Overnight, the GFN library doubles to 4,500 games. That is quite a number of games, but the most important part, these are still opted in games, so it's not going to be every Steam title under the sun. And to set expectations, this is probably going to lean more towards indies and mid-size games. So if you're thinking we're going to be getting lots of AAA blockbusters, I think your expectations are going to be a little bit too high. If you're curious, you can actually check out on SteamDB to see what's been enabled. From my own library, we've already spotted games like the Turing Test and a Short Hike showing up, exactly the kind of games that now get a chance to actually shine on GFN. This matters because games will now be available quicker as well, really close to the release dates without the long wait for Nvidia to onboard them. As soon as a publisher opts in, it's good to go. It also means games that had little chance of being chosen before, the obscure indie titles, the ones that would never have made it through the full onboarding process, finally have a way onto the service. That's the key here. Games need to be opted in. No massive process, no months of delay. It lowers the barrier and makes the library feel more live and more up to date. Now, there's another side to this, and I think we should just sort of look at it from two fronts. First, expect some of the games to be pulled. Honestly, I think some developers and publishers may not even realize their games are sitting in the install to play list yet, and once they do, a few of them will take them down. So yes, removals are going to happen. But on the other front, I think we're going to see a big wave of games being added, because install to play doesn't need the full Nvidia onboarding process. The barrier for publishers is going to be a way lower. It's going to be quicker, easier to get games onto the cloud. This also adds pressure. When the library suddenly feels this big, no publisher wants their game missing from it. So while a handful of titles might disappear, I expect the overall trend to be upwards massively. More and more games finding their way on the GeForce Now. And the other big thing here is what this means for the future. With install to play, we can actually start to see a roadmap of games coming to GeForce Now well in advance. That means we don't just react week to week anymore. We can actually look forward. I've already started to see some great games for 2026 because of this news, and that is exciting. Now, if you've used Boosteroid before, you'll know they've had an install to play for a while now, but the difference is GFN still requires games to be opted in. It's a nice compromise. You get the variety and the speed, but with that, the extra there of stability and publisher support. And here's the thing, I don't think this stops with games. If you can install games in the cloud, apps are going to follow. Mods are already available, and that shows Nvidia isn't knocking this down to just the bare minimum. I think it's only a matter of time before we see apps too. Of course, install to play is the headline, but the rest of this update deserves a quick run through as well. We've got 5080s in the cloud now with DLSS 4 streaming up to 5K 120 frames per second. Yes, I did say 5K. That is a serious leap forward, and it's always great to see more raw power added to the service, but I do think we're starting to hit a bit of a power plateau. Sure, there are games that push the 4080s today, and there will be ones that push the 5080s too, but those will be far and few between. For most gamers, the difference isn't going to be as dramatic as the big jumps as we saw in the past. Still, it's new power in the cloud, and that's always welcome. Then you've got cinematic quality streaming for sharper visuals and cleaner text. Steam Deck performance is bumped up to 90 frames per second if you're on the Steam Deck OLED, and LG TVs are now going to be pushing 4K 120 with HDR through the native app. And the one I'm personally excited for, and I've already touched on this, is the steering wheel support. Driving games already look good on GFN, but with proper wheel support, it's going to be so much more immersive, and that is a brilliant addition. So yeah, Nvidia is calling this their biggest ever GFN update, and honestly, I do think it's fair. The 5080s are great, the new streaming modes are solid, and the device support keeps expanding. But for me, the real story is still install to play. That's the shift that changes how GFM feels. We're going to see some games pulled, we're going to see a lot more added, and I think the pressure on publishers to opt in is only going to grow. It's not perfect, but it is a nice compromise. Mods are confirmed, indies and overlooked titles finally have a chance, and I genuinely believe apps are coming down the line. That's when GFM will really start to blur into being more than just a cloud gaming service. This feels like the start of a new phase, and I'm all for it. I'm Duncan, and Cloudy's back.